AM 1260, KLYC, and the Oregon Pulse Network. On the phone with us right now is Bob Wolf of the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Bob, glad to have you with us today on the phone.
Not a problem. Glad to be here.
Got to be a disappointing day for you. There were two levy requests, one for more to pay for additional deputies for patrol and some other things at Polk County, and then also the levy request for firefighting services also failed. But specifically talking about the request affecting your department, what's your initial reaction?
Well, of course, we're disappointed with the results, but we're certainly not disappointed with our efforts that we put forth to go to the voters and ask them to continue to support the public safety needs in Polk County.
What do you think, what message, if any, does this send from the voters? Do you think it's an issue of it's simply times are tough?
I would agree. I think, there was a lot of hard discussion with the Board of Commissioners and the Citizens Advisory Group before we even decided to go forward with this levy. Times are tough. I mean, you can still drive through places in Polk County and see closed-up storefronts. And Polk County used to have 5 operating mills, 6-7 years ago, and now today we have none. So I think the message is that voters just are not ready to pay more in taxes, even though they see the services of public safety as being important to them. They just are having a hard time breaking loose with the funding to pay for it. And I think Americans as a whole have their confidence shaken in government, starting with back in Washington D.C. and the recent events that occurred back there with them shutting down the government. So,
do you think that is having repercussions here on the local level, that people are just, to use the word, fed up and just are tired of paying taxes?
Well, I would have to say I think it's a consideration. And it's not just Polk County's levies that failed. I mean, you can look at public safety levies from around the state of Oregon, and they all failed by considerable amounts. So that's sending a pretty strong message. There were very few money issues that passed during this special election in the state of Oregon. Very few passed. More failed.
That's true. So what does this mean for the Polk County Sheriff's Department, public safety? Where are you as far as 24/7 patrol? Does this mean you're going to not be able to keep deputies that you have on? What does this mean for your staffing?
Well, immediately it won't have any impact because we're funded through July of 2014. However, and that's when the levy would have kicked in. It would be next July. Currently, right now, we do not have 24-hour patrols. That hasn't occurred since March of this year due to reductions that occurred when officers left because we don't have stabilized funding. So I'll sit down and meet with my management team. We had a brief meeting this morning, and we will start formulating a plan. And I know for a fact that we will lose more bodies come July, and there will be cuts to our budget. That's the reason we went out for the levy, is we do not have the funding to continue to maintain current services, and so we will make additional reductions in July, if not before, because I'm concerned that I'll have some employees that will see this and just go, you know what, I've got to go find someplace else to work that has stabilized funding.
How many deputies do you have?
Total deputies for patrol, I have 11, but 4 of them are funded through the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. And then, so that leaves me 7, and 2 of those are detectives. So I'm down to 5 deputies. I'm likely going to lose 4 come July. 2 of them will be from patrol, and the other 2 will be out of Grand Ronde because they've cut our funding back out there. So that will take me down to just a couple of deputies, and I'll have to pull my detectives and put them on the road, and most likely I'll end up reducing my patrol hour coverage down to 16 hours a day instead of 20 hours a day.
So what would this mean for residents of Polk County then come, I guess, July 2014? Probably increased response times, and if possibly another agency would have to handle some of the calls when you're not on duty.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's going to cause us, delayed response times because we'll have to travel greater distances due to less officers covering the county. And then we've been utilizing the services of the Oregon State Police, and occasionally the city police will come out of the city for a short distance to help cover something until we can get there. But you can't expect the taxpayers in the cities to be paying for the services to go out into the county, when they're paying for city officers to be patrolling the city.
As I look at Measure 27109, it would have funded a number of items, patrols and operations at the jail. Let's talk about the jail for a little bit. What does it mean for the operation at the jail? We haven't talked about that yet.
Well, I'm at minimum staffing every day right now due to budget reductions this year. I really can't reduce the jail any more than what it is. What I'm going to have to seriously look at, because I've already burned up almost all of the overtime, and I haven't even made it halfway through this fiscal year, is probably consider moving someone from patrol over to the jail to help reduce the overtime cost. And it still doesn't get me back to where I'm able to provide adequate coverage to provide security for the 4 courtrooms that we have. So that's a safety concern for the courts and for the citizens that come to the courts. So I'm just going to do what I can to try to stabilize as much as I can the loss of overtime by moving a position. But without any additional funding, we'll continue to stay at the level that we are. Our jail in Polk County is uniquely designed and efficiently staffed to be able to run it while the minimum is 5 and it costs me overtime. We normally would have, 7 or 8 deputies assigned to the jail. But because of its design, whether I have 25 inmates or 125 inmates in there, it takes the same amount of people to operate the jail.
How old is your jail? It must be fairly new.
Yes, it is. It's actually coming up, I think, on its 14th year in operation. It's a 204-bed jail. We went from a 43-bed jail in 2000. Yeah, in 2000. Went from a 43-bed jail on top of the courthouse to a 204-bed jail across the street.
What struck me when I read it, Measure 27109, is there's funding here for adult community corrections, the district attorney's office, community services, drug enforcement, court security, and juvenile services. It looks like there was needing to be a gap filled in the budgets for a number of public service type agencies and corrections and law enforcement. Is this going to leave a pretty big hole?
Yes, it is. Since 2008, Polk County has continually seen a reduction of O&C timber funding from the federal government. And so that's why we've been on this downward spiral and have been making the reductions. So in 2008, we were receiving $204 million a year from O&C timber funding, and now we're down to 0. And so all of that make-up money has had to come out of the general fund, and we just don't have the money to make that up any longer. So that's why the reductions have occurred. We've hit the bottom, and so we went to the voters to ask them to try to stabilize it for us. And that's, the decision of the voters was they can't afford it, and so we're going to have to continue to make cuts, and eventually, without any significant change in funding, the DA is going to lose some positions this next year. We rent juvenile beds from Yamhill County and from Marion County. We'll have to cut back on our rentals of juvenile beds. I'll lose more patrol. Our drug team, I may have to pull out of that, which could put that in jeopardy. So there's quite a few impacts. All of those areas are all funded out of the general fund. So that's the reason why we put it all together as one package.
How concerned are you for the public safety, future public safety, 2014 and beyond, worst case scenario, that no money comes in and you've got the scenario that we've described here to work with? Are you really concerned about public safety in Polk County?
Well, I've said all along, I'm not going to try to pretend that crime's going to run rampant in the street. but I can tell you that it's certainly not going to get any better than what it is today. And we've been very fortunate in Polk County that we've had a jail that doesn't release people. When they are arrested in Polk County, they either have to post bail or see a judge. We have no matrix system here. They're not automatically released. So that's really helped curb our crime rate. When the criminal element understands that now they probably are not going to get prosecuted and they might get out of jail early, one can only draw the conclusion that that's going to just give them the feeling that, well, gee, Polk County's open for business.
So then what would your advice be to residents of Polk County?
Well, obviously, even though we're limited in resources, I still would like for them to notify us so we at least are aware of some of the crime that is still occurring. We're still going to try to respond to the, more serious events, but some of our more minor issues, I'm just not sure where I'm going to get the resources to be able to continue to respond to those. So citizens will just need to be more aware of what's going on in their neighborhood and report stuff more, and hopefully between myself and the sheriff's office and the Oregon State Police, we can get somebody there.